She had already decided this was going to be her last week at the hospital. Her resignation letter sat folded in her bag, waiting for the right moment to hand over. Every step she took along the cold, sterile corridor felt heavier than the one before, the fluorescent lights above buzzing like they were mocking her exhaustion. The patient's cries, the beeping of machines, the endless paperwork. After 10 years of being a pediatric nurse, Sarah felt like her heart had nothing left to give. The job that once lit her up had now drained her completely. She told herself she'd give her last few shifts, walk out, and finally be free from the burden of caring so deeply. But fate had other plans. Plans that came in the form of a whisper from a child who barely had the strength to speak. It was a Monday morning, one of those days where the rain painted the hospital windows with streaks of gray, and the halls smelled faintly of antiseptic and stale coffee. Sarah was doing her rounds when she noticed a new patient in room 12. The chart read, Lily Thompson, age 7, admitted for post-surgery observation. Sarah's tired eyes skimmed over the details without interest. Just another name, another case, another child who needed help she wasn't sure she could give anymore. But when she stepped inside, Lily looked up from her bed with eyes too big for her frail frame. They were pale blue, almost see-through, and they carried a strange stillness for someone so young. She didn't speak, just watched Sarah move about the room. Sarah kept her interaction polite, but minimal. She checked Lily's vitals, adjusted her for, and left without much more than a "you're all set." The truth was, Sarah had built walls around herself these past few years. She'd learned to keep her distance so she wouldn't get too attached, because every time she cared too much, she ended up carrying that pain home. And lately, she couldn't carry any more. But later that day, when Sarah returned to give Lily her medication, she found the little girl still watching her intently. "Do you need something?" Sarah asked. Lily shook her head. Then, in the softest, weakest voice, she whispered, "Sarah." The nurse froze. She didn't remember introducing herself. "How do you know my name?" she asked gently, walking closer. Lily smiled faintly. "Mommy told me," she said. "You're the one who helped her a long time ago." Sarah's mind scrambled to make sense of it. "Your mom?" she asked. Lily nodded. "When she was my age, she was in this hospital too. You stayed with her at night when she was scared." The words pierced through Sarah's fatigue like sunlight breaking through clouds. Memories stirred, of a small girl years ago with pneumonia, whose mother couldn't stay overnight because she was ill herself. Sarah had spent extra hours by her bedside, telling stories, brushing her hair, making her laugh through the coughing fits. Could that child have been Lily's mother? Before Sarah could ask more, Lily's mother walked in. She was in her 30s now, her hair pulled back, eyes red from worry. When she saw Sarah, her face softened into recognition. "It really is you," she said quietly. "I wasn't sure if it was the same nurse. You used to bring me those paper flowers you made out of napkins. You stayed with me when my parents couldn't." Sarah felt something shift inside her, something she thought she had lost. This wasn't just a job. These weren't just patients. Every moment, every small kindness, had the power to ripple through time in ways she'd never imagined. The days that followed were different. Sarah found herself lingering in Lily's room, telling her silly stories, teaching her how to make paper flowers just like the one she had made for her mother. She saw the way Lily's face lit up, how her small laugh seemed to chase away the beeping and the sterile smell. But then came a night when Lily's condition worsened. Her blood pressure dropped suddenly, alarms blaring. Sarah was at her side in seconds, calling for the doctor, her hands steady despite the pounding in her chest. Hours passed before Lily stabilized, but Sarah never left the room. She sat by the bed, holding that tiny hand, whispering, "You're going to be okay." When Lily woke up the next morning, her first words were a quiet, "I knew you'd stay." And in that moment, Sarah knew she wasn't quitting. She couldn't, because for every night she felt drained, there could be a day like this, when she was the reason a child felt safe, when her presence meant more than she'd ever realize. Her resignation letter stayed in her bag, untouched, until she eventually tore it up. The job was hard, yes, heartbreakingly hard, but it was also where she made the kind of difference that lived on in people's lives long after they left the hospital. And sometimes, all it took to remind her of that was a little girl whispering her name. By the time Lily was discharged, she left with a bouquet of paper flowers in her hands, and Sarah left with something even more precious. The return of her purpose, the quiet reminder that love, in the smallest acts, could change everything. And that's how Sarah learned that sometimes, the reason you keep going is not the job itself, but the lives that are quietly changed along the way, even when you don't realize it. Because somewhere out there, years from now, another little voice might whisper her name.